Good morning, friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day out there in your gardens. Today we're over at my parents' house to break ground on their garden renovation. Specifically, we're transforming their front yard garden, which is a relatively high maintenance garden full of perennials, annuals, shrubs, evergreens, planters, different walkways. Basically, we're transforming this high maintenance space into a very low maintenance garden that's going to look good year round. I want to talk about some things to think about when you're designing a garden from the ground up. You're just getting started, you're not really sure where to start. What kind of questions should we be asking ourselves? I'll just share with you the questions that I asked my parents. The first question I asked them is, what level of maintenance do you want this garden to be? As I said, currently it's a pretty high maintenance garden, and as you can see behind me, they also have a high maintenance garden in the backyard. But they really want the front yard to be as low maintenance as possible. So I'm only going to be planting shrubs in their front yard. It's going to be 100% shrubs, including what we plant in containers. This is really going to pull the maintenance level way down. After we talked about maintenance, we talked about what kind of garden style they prefer. It's sometimes easy to just tell by the maintenance level what kind of style someone is going to want. We've got formal gardens that are really defined by symmetry, hedges, and repetition. We have informal gardens like my garden. It's more of a cottage garden full of all different kinds of plants that bloom at different times. I would consider that a very high maintenance garden. We have modern gardens, and my parents' house just doesn't really gel well with the look of a modern garden. And that's another great thing to keep in mind, is what kind of style complements the house. A modern garden wouldn't really seem right with a 1980s colonial. A cottage garden might work, but really at the end of the day, a nice, low-growing, formal garden that makes the house itself shine, because it's such a beautiful house, is what I think and what they think is required of this new garden. Now we want to look at the site itself and see what kind of problems we have. What do we want to keep? What do we want to get rid of? Where are our downspouts? Do we have any areas of the garden where water pools? Do we have any areas of the garden where we have runoff? What we're dealing with here mainly is we have a very, very large oak tree in the front, which is taking up a lot of moisture. So I've been keeping track of what plants are thriving under this oak tree over the years, and thankfully we have a large oak tree at our house. I'm not sure you even notice it in the videos because it's located right next to our garage, and it completely covers Grace's garden on the one side to the left and the hydrangea room to the right. So I'm used to growing under oak trees, and thankfully I know that hydrangeas and boxwoods, they thrive in that condition. As long as you get them well established that first year, they can really take care of themselves henceforth. We're also going to pull back the planting a little bit farther away from the oak tree than where they have it located right now. So that's also another way I'm going to deal with that oak tree. If necessary, we might even be bringing in some more soil to raise the soil level, so there's less competition between the oak roots and the hydrangea and boxwood roots. But boxwood and hydrangeas are shallow rooted plants, so that's nice too. They are really only going to take water from the top 9 to 12 inches of the soil. So these plants work really, really well together and complement each other in the landscape. The next thing we talked about was color palette, and they have beautiful gray blue shutters. The brick on their house is almost a cool pink brick, so I want nice, cool, calming color tones. I'm going to really constrain the color palette to white, green, and blue. And I'm also going to take that blue color and use it in some complementary foliage. So here is our really big oak tree, which is probably going to be our largest challenge as we work in this garden. How old do you think this oak tree is? It's beautiful. I love how it's placed because it frames their house just beautifully. Also framing the house very nicely on the corner here is a Kusa dogwood. I really love that. So of course we're keeping the oak, of course we're keeping the Kusa dogwood. I really like these bearded iris and they like them too, and they're in our color palette. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this section here and just surround the lamppost with the bearded iris. I don't think we need to get rid of them. I want to utilize any plant that they like that matches the design. So we'll just group those bearded iris together right there. We have 3 inkberry hollies, which are quite old at this point, and both my parents want those removed. The Pieris japonica definitely needs to come out. It's been struggling for a long time. So we're going to go ahead and just cut that down at ground level. I'm not going to even attempt to dig that up. That would be a beast to dig up. Instead, I'm just going to cut it at ground level. We have some hellebores that we're going to move underneath this Kusa dogwood. We've got a Kodiak black Durvella, which is a nice plant, but it's really not doing anything for me. I'm going to go ahead, dig that one up, throw it in my compost pile at home. And so here we'll have a nice section full of hellebores and hostas. We're going to pop this dianthus out. And right now this bed is slightly curved and going around. We are going to straighten this bed so that we can run the Insta-hedge like this, out, over, straight to the sidewalk, and then we're going to line the entire sidewalk with the instant hedge because they want to eliminate this walking path here and instead encourage their guests to only use this sidewalk right here. And if we take a look at these mums here and the inkberry holly, we can almost get a sense of what that instant hedge is going to look like. So we'll have instant hedge like this, and then it will go ahead and touch the porch. We're also going to have instant hedge right here and right here. And then we're going to have a storm-proof hydrangea right here, 5 storm-proof hydrangeas going all the way down the house, and it's going to just be a beautiful, cohesive look that looks good all season long and really picks up on the natural colors that are already found in their house. Now, last week I came over here and did these 2 brand new pots for them. We picked up these pots from at home. They picked them out. I just requested that they be a certain size. I think my mom had some shorter pots here originally, and I just suggested larger pots. And so what we did is a cascading white hydrangea called Fairy Trail White. So that will eventually cascade over this pot and bloom these beautiful white mop head blooms. But for now, since it wasn't cascading and the pots were quite tall, I did want to add in an annual. This is the only annual you're going to see. This is Plectranthus. So I just wanted to kind of get that feel of what it would look like once those Fairy Trail hydrangeas were spilling over the pots. As I'm taking a look at the soil, I'm noticing that it does look incredibly dry, especially over here. But our initial thought is to actually just mulch this entire area this fall. So this entire area where we're really having a problem with the soil staying too dry, we're just going to mulch it, and we're going to focus our attention on creating a beautiful garden right back here where we know the soil is better. We're further away from the root system of the oak. When I did the original site analysis of their property, I just drew out the garden as you see it now. I measured everything, and on my paper I put detailed measurements for everything, not just the size of the beds looking from the heavens down, but also I measured things like the distance from the ground to the bottom of this window. This is where my mom looks out the window, their golden retriever looks out the window, and we all agreed that we do not want to block that view at all. So we have 4 feet from the base of this window to the ground. So Stormproof grows 4 feet tall max, so that'll be perfect right there. And as you can see, it slopes downward, so that's going to be really beautiful, just having those hydrangeas come right on down here. The goal for this fall is to clear out anything my parents don't want from that garden, plant our new Stormproof hydrangeas, get the instant hedge in either late September or early October, mulch everything up really nice, get it edged really nice, and then next spring we'll come back, we'll look at the garden again and decide what we want to do with that sweeping mulch area. I think once we get it all done, we might just like it and not want to put anything there at all. But we also might want to come back in with a very low growing deutzia and use that as a ground cover. So that's something that we're all thinking about. We're also thinking about using a very low growing spirea that blooms white as a ground cover. But I think for this growing season, the Insta-Hedge and the hydrangeas is a great start. So let's go ahead and get to work on pulling out some of these old shrubs, and then we'll see if we have time. And then we'll see if we have time to put in the hydrangeas. I was able to get 5 of the hydrangeas in the ground today. We now need to move over to this area, pop this pot into the backyard and stick another hydrangea right there. One thing I noticed immediately when I started digging is that this soil is incredibly compacted and really does not have any nutrients for our plants at all. It's going to be challenging to dig the trench for the instant hedge. So this morning I went ahead and had a DoorDash delivery over at my parents' house of some mushroom compost. I'm going to go ahead and work that mushroom compost in around the hydrangeas, and also where we're going to trench for the Insta hedge, I'm going to lay some mushroom compost there so that can start to work down into this soil. I think we're actually going to bring in a lot more soil than I originally anticipated. So my goal for today's my parents' anniversary, so they're not here. I'll be able to stay here quite a while today, is to get another hydrangea in the ground right here, pull out all of this plant material, mushroom compost, mulch. I think I'm going to remove these today. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll do that last. Get some mushroom compost down here, get this mulched all nicely, get this re-edged for my dad, and that's probably where we'll stop for today's video. So I'll see you in a couple hours. All right, friends, I think I'm going to stop here for the day, so let me give you a little tour of what we got done so far. I removed all the mums that were struggling from the edge of this bed, and I'm taking those back to my house to be composted. There was some other perennials in this area that my mom wants to keep and move when she gets back from her trip, so I just cut those down at ground level and I marked where they are for her. So there was some columbine in here. They're still in there. They're just going to move to the backyard. We're going to move this tater tot arborvitae somewhere else. My dad's going to move this creeping Jenny over to his train garden. I think we'll go ahead and just say goodbye to these mums and this catmint in a few days' time, but for now, I wanted to just get everything mulched up nicely for them before they come back from their trip. We got these gorgeous storm-proof hydrangeas in the ground. Everything looks very, very short right now. The scale looks off, but in 3 years' time, it's going to make perfect sense. The storm-proof hydrangeas will grow 3.5 feet tall to 4 feet tall and just hug the base of these windows. That will be really lovely. So things like this sweet woodruff that you see and this hosta, those are going to be relocated, but I didn't want to move too much stuff around without checking in with them one final time. I moved some of the hellebores underneath this Kusa dogwood. I weeded out some bishop's weed that I noticed had started to take over this area and just re-edged this and mulched it nicely. Well friends, thanks so much for hanging out with me over the last few days at my parents' house. Really excited to get this renovation started, and I cannot wait to see this gorgeous garden transformation. I'll see you in a few days' time. Bye friends.